waters of the Vaal Dam were abuzz with boating activity over the first weekend of February for the 2012 Round the Island race, the largest race on the South African sailing calendar.
Well, the Round the Island Yacht Race is a creation by LDYC. It's our race and has been since inception. It's now our 54th Round the Island race, and it's an event that we're exceedingly proud of, and the scale of which it's just grown and grown and grown, and something we've nurtured. We're quite proud of the fact that we're in the Guinness Book of Records as being the largest amount of finishing yachts in an inland yacht race anywhere in the world. And that was in 2007, and we had 389 finishes. And we're hoping that this year, now being 2012, that we're actually going to exceed that, and we've got the Guinness Book of Records on standby.
There were a series of races planned for the weekend, the first of which was the Commodore's Cup held on Friday afternoon, which started in a very light breeze. The Flying Dutchman, skippered by Dirk van der Vecht, eased away from the fleet and by the first mark was leading, followed closely by the JS 9000 and Farrier 27. These boats were in close contention for the entire race. A crucial point came on the last turning mark before the finish when a stalled Hobie Tiger resulted in the two top-placed boats having to take avoiding action. Unaffected by the incident though, the Flying Dutchman tacked around the buoy to slip into the lead for the sprint to the finish. A David versus Goliath contest ensued, and as the remainder of the fleet passed by, the positions of the leading trio changed. Firstly, the Flying Dutchman dropped 2 places, and then the trimaran of Les Porter slipped into the lead past Tielman Berger on Agatu. Quite apt that Tielman, the Commodore of LDYC, should be contesting the Commodore's Cup. With the Flying Dutchman finishing third over the line, the top 3 positions were inverted when the handicaps came into play, with the larger and faster boats having to give time to the smaller and slower ones. Serenity, a Sprague dinghy, was placed fourth on handicap. Saturday morning and Lake Denace Yacht Club was crammed with yachties, some watching the air show while others partaking in many of the activities that were on offer. But the principal reason was to get their boats rigged and registered for the race, a crucial part of the safety requirements, with safety being the ethos of the primary sponsor.
SAMSA is the South African Maritime Safety Authority. What we do is we regulate our inland waterways amongst many other things. Safety of life and protection of life in our waterways and at sea is one of our key mandates. So essentially we involved particularly with this property and many others that may come to encourage people who use our waterways to adhere to the safety standards that are now part of the regulation from 2008. SAMSA has been involved with Round the Island race for 3 years and now we're the headline sponsor, and particularly for the same simple reason that the recognition amongst the sailors is growing and the affinity with the property and messages that we're trying to convey in terms of compliance and safety is quite critical, and it is essential to speak to a captive audience where people are more at ease to hear and understand and comprehend your messages. And we're quite excited about the prospects of this becoming bigger and much more exciting.
The tune-up race on the Saturday afternoon was the last chance for the sailors to shake off the cobwebs in preparation for Sunday's big event. Barely minutes after the start of the race, the wind shifted to the right, meaning that the sailboats that had started close to the committee boat gained a massive advantage. The rectangular course combined with the wind shift meant that this race was essentially a sprint race, with the boat sailing almost direct courses around the buoys. Towards the second mark, Prodigy 4, a Flying Tiger, was clearly showing excellent boat speed in the light conditions, followed closely by the Thompson 7. The sailors of the J27 Pink Cadillac were accustomed to light winds, with the boat normally sailing on Hartbeespoort Dam. The multi-hulls were also moving up through the fleet after being caught out early on. The Seacart 30 and Multi 23, both previous winners of the Round the Island race, and not forgetting the Nacra Carbon, last year's winner. Two Pacer 27s were also in close contention. This modern South African designed sport boat is geared specifically for racing. Concentration a crucial factor when the wind is light, ensuring that the telltales on the sails remain in good airflow. On the third leg of the rectangular course, the wind filled in, allowing the Hobie Tiger, the Thompson 7 and the JS 9000 to pick up their pace and stretch their lead from the following fleet. But there was no catching the Flying Tiger, skippered by Chris Frost from Durban, and once they were able to hoist their massive asymmetric spinnaker, measuring nearly 107 square meters, the boat surged into an unassailable lead. But the trading boats were on the pace and looking pretty spectacular, none more so than the Nacra, skippered by Wolf Sainz and his son Marco. Prodigy 4 executed a perfect jibe just before crossing the finishing line and retained first position on handicap. Second on handicap was the Hobie Tiger of Mark Koppel, followed by Agatu, the JS 9000 in third, and the Thompson 7 in fourth. But the prize for finishing in style most certainly goes to the Nacra. No explanation needed. The 75 competitors all finished within 2 hours, and if weather conditions held, Sunday's race looked promising. A strong showing by the keelboats, perhaps an indication that the dominance of multi-hulls over the last few years was under some serious threat. Design in sailing has transformed over the last 10 years, and many of the newer and quicker boats competing have been entered into the ultra class.
Professional sailors have still wanted to have an active part and an active role in racing without the distraction of the other boats. So exactly like the Comrades, where they've started to seed races, what we've done is we've established the ultra class, which enables the guys that really want to go out there and race properly and cleanly and away from all the rest of the boats still have the opportunity to do so.
So what is the appeal of these boats?
I think the biggest attraction is the speed and the thrill that they give the sailors who sail them.
All the composite materials
And carbon fibers that have now become available and more predominant, and people have had access to these products.
it's high tech. It's becoming more and more high tech from the good old wooden, boats of the old days.
Which means that designers can build the boats much lighter, which translates in the boats going much faster.
They go very fast. They're powerful.
And also the fact that we can get around the island really quickly. I mean, we've got around in just over an hour.
So with preparations complete and the sun setting, festivities continued into the wee hours, especially for the young sailors. Muso's Mackenzie Blue rocked the all-night revelers, their performance enhanced by the big screen and staging provided by Pro Sound.
Well, it's Sunday morning, the 5th of February. Good morning, wakey wakey it is. And I can tell you that if you haven't yet put your head out, the wind is blowing. So it's a nice good morning, welcome, let's go sailing.
With 378 official entries, the yachts were divided into 3 main groups or classes, starting 10 minutes apart. The Ultra class, starting at 8:10, were limited to 50 entries, appealing directly to the more hardcore racers. 20 minutes past 8 would see the keelboat starting, followed by the last group of catamarans and dinghies at 8:30. The route around Groot Eiland starts at LDYC. Boats then race to the southern tip of the island, leaving the island to port before returning to the yacht club. Getting a good start when sailing a race is vital, and typically the boats jostle to get the most favourable place on the line. With the first leg being an upwind beat to the island, it was crucial that once clear of the line, the next phase would be to ensure that your boat gained clean air and then to search for favourable wind shifts. The multi-hull sailors were soon out near the front of the fleet, Mark Wittenberg sailing with his son Brandon, making great progress. Amongst the top keelers, Prodigy 4 and Madame Pizzazz, a FAR 38, were also well placed, the FAR being a top design from the 80s. Alan Lawrence and Brian Leon Cachet sailing the Multi-23 faster, overall winner in 2010, the lightweight try slicing through the early morning chop. With a number of keelers over 40 feet, Baleka, a fast 42 and a regular on the Val Dam racing scene, was placed just to leeward of the Seacart 30, a sister ship to the outright record holder of Round the Island race. That record time of just less than 1 hour remains unbeaten. With the fleet tacking to windward, the separation of the boats quickly covered a wide area. Excalibur, a leisure 42 heading towards the northern shore, skippered by Craig Schweitzer, another regular on the Val Dam, and a case of old versus new. Crocodile, a Dragonfly trimaran, closes on port tack with another of the multi-23s. But by tacking just below them, the right-of-way boat is forced to tack to gain clear air, a tactical move that is typical to racing. The Thompson 7, a fine example of the new sport boat designs, with all the right credentials, lightweight, powerful sailing plan, and sailors willing to hike hard, result in good boat speed. Mark Koppel sailing the Hobie Tiger on port tack, passing behind Agatu, the JS 9000, and another sport boat designed in Australia by John Swabrick. With American Cup credentials and similar in looks to the ACC boats, the JS 9000 can be sailed short-handed by people who don't like to hike hard. At precisely 8:20, the keelboat started their race. This was by far the largest class competing. With the northeasterly wind direction, which translated into an upward leg, followed by a tight reach and a downwind leg, the top contenders were sure to do well on handicap. The L26 Windways in the middle of the picture, taking an early lead. The Kid, an old IOR quarter tonner sailed by Roger Sanders, and Bikini Girl, make that girls. As with the Ultra class, the fleet quickly spread across the bay, and with the wind blowing a steady 8 knots, the yachts were making great progress. Ten minutes later, the catamarans and dinghies made up the start of the third and final division, dominated by catamarans like the Dart, Hellcat, Hobie's 14s, 16s and 18s. The Hobie 16 is the original beach cat, and even though it was designed in 1967, it remains a popular choice and really defines catamaran sailing, evident with over 30 entries in this year's race. The Dart is an 18-foot catamaran designed in 1975 by Rodney March, sailed here by Matthew Clark. The look of the boat is similar to another of his cats, the Olympic-class Tornado, minus the daggerboards. Wolf and Marco Sainz leading the way to the island, proving once again how formidable they are as a team. This Nacra Carbon F20 was outright winner in last year's event. However, they were facing fierce opposition with another of the Nacra F20s with a father and son combination, Mark and Tyron Hammock. By the time they had reached the bottom of the island, Mark Hammock had taken the lead. In close pursuit, 2 Hobies, the Tiger, and another slippery new design, the FX1, sailed by Charles Gerard. And continuing their good form from the previous day's racing, Prodigy 4, the first of the keelers. Designed in 2005 by Robert Perry and built in China, the boat is unique in that the designer took cues from an open sailing forum, where other sailors contributed to the layout of the boat. Baleka maintaining her place and second keeler to the bottom mark of the island. Ladybird, a Farrier trimaran all the way up from Durban, skippered by Andrew Dolloway, followed closely by the Multi-23. Now, these boats were expected to gain distance when reaching became possible. Agatu finding the conditions well suited to her design. Her pace would bode well in the final results. In fact, this first leg had suited the monohulls, who were generally able to point higher than the multi-hulls. Added to this, the light wind conditions were working in their favour. One of the leading dinghies was the 505 Fish Eagle, designed as early as 1954, but still an active class, and from an old design to the oldest competing skipper, 79-year-old Nigel Sutherland. By the time the current third position C-Kart 30 neared the north end of the island, the leading twosome had already rounded the top mark and were well on their way back to LDYC, with the lead having changed once again. The reach just before the top mark had allowed the multi-hulls to really stretch their legs, with the C-Kart 30, Hobie Tiger, Multi 23 and Farrier all showing impressive boat speed. Not to be outdone, Prodigy 4 was still in close contention. Further down the leg, it looked as though the Knackerers were about to change position for the 5th time. Baleka, the Fast 42, retaining her second keeler position, with the leading Dragonfly and JS 9000 not far behind. Richard Stevens up amongst the top finishers in last year's event, sailing single-handed on his Hobie 18 Gustbuster. But the Hobie 16s were proving dominant, with Greg Plunkett leading the non-Spinnaker boats, just trailing Brent Hayward, also on Hobie 16, but fitted with a Spinnaker. By the top mark, the leading Hobie 16 had rounded just after the leading L26 Windways, who were well positioned for a strong handicap finish. As the Hobie 16 raised their Spinnaker, the obvious speed advantage over those Hobie 16s without that modification was clearly evident. Greg Plunkett perhaps thinking he should alter his boat. And the oldest competitor proving that age is no handicap in the speed stakes. At this stage, the leading Knackerers were positioned near the dam wall. Wolf Science jibing early, no point in simply following the other Knackerer. Back at the top of the island, the procession of boats continued, with keelers and catamarans mixing it up. The second place Pacer 27, skippered by Ian Gibson on the final stretch home, followed by the leading Hobie 18. Awesome, the top place Hobie 16 living up to its name and demonstrating the transformation the Spinnaker makes to the performance of this boat. However, the Knackerer was practically untouchable in the performance stakes. This all-carbon boat represents the pinnacle of modern sailing technology. Super lightweight, curved daggerboards that function like a hydrofoil when the boat is moving at speed, and an incredibly powerful sail plan. Although there was no prize for flying a hull, Charles Gerard deserved one, this Hobie FX1 passing behind the trio of ultra-class competitors. These boats had remained closely grouped since rounding the top of the island. And not to be outdone in the hull flying stakes, Mark Hammock on the leading Knackerer nearly overcooking things in the final gust. Quick reactions by him on the main sheet saved the day, and possible embarrassment, and all quickly forgotten in the moments of victory. After a hard-fought battle, just less than 2 minutes separated the Knackerers.
Great racing today. Lead changed about 5 or 6 times at least.
It was quite competitive.
We went across the dam wall, and Wolf Sights, who is one of our close competitors, went the opposite direction, and it paid big for him.
Mark in front of us at the beginning had a better start than us. Then we caught up on the upwind. We had good upwind speed.
Very tight tussle up the back of the island, and at the top end we just got away from him fractionally. He got ahead of us again as usual.
And in the end he got the better of us when he stuck closer to the dam wall and got a bit more breeze and inched in a couple of minutes before us.
The C-Kart 30, Bog Monster, was third across the line, closely followed by the Hobie Tiger in 4th place.
We had a great race. We got clean air off the start, which I think helped a lot. We didn't get behind all the big keelers. And then we headed down towards the dam wall and just kept going. So we had a good race, good boat speed. Got to the island, I think 3rd or 4th, and just kept it going from there.
5th place in line honours went to Simon Benares, skippering the Inter 20, the winning boat in the 2009 race. In 6th, the Multi 23 gets a little more breeze, allowing the racing trimaran to perform at its best, and finally breaking from the Farrier in 8th position. The trimaran sandwiched by the Hobie Tiger of Mike Goodyear in 7th, and the Hobie FX1 in 9th. Rounding off the top 10 finishers in the Ultra class and the first keeler over the line, Prodigy 4. Part of the appeal of competing in the ultra class is for the prestige of Lion Honours or for the quickest elapsed time. Here then a recap of the results. Two other boats locked in battle were Baleka and Agatu. With the higher handicap, the Fast 42 had to give time to the JS 9000, which on the Sunday was sailed by Greg Harter from Durban.
We had a couple of problems with the multi-hulls at the beginning, but we found a nice clear air, went towards the dam wall and caught some good shifts and everything. It was a good day.
Another close fought contest was between the two top placed Dragonflies, Ben Mini sailing Crocodile, closely pursued by father and son team Bill and Keon Ellens. The Thompson 7 eased ahead of Excalibur, the Leisure 42, into 19th position over the line. The Wit sailing team with a good result of 25th over the line. Their sailing skills not quite on par with their abilities at maintaining some form of rhythm. Perhaps the blame lies in the motion of the boat. The first dinghy over the line and 26th on handicap, we wondered about the relationship between father and son team in a 505.
All that I can say is I have the stick in the end, so I got the power, so it doesn't really matter what he says, but no, but I think it's easy because we already know each other, and it's easy to communicate and talk, and we kind of make decisions together.
The top place, Pacer 27, skippered by Rob de Vlieg, finished 18th, both over the line and on handicap. Roy Spurdel's Far 38, Madame Pizzazz, 35th on handicap. And second place dinghy overall, the Flying Dutchman, 47th on handicap. Well up the order amongst the keelboat class, the French-designed First 8, skippered by Kelvin Nicol, the last few hundred metres neck and neck with the second place J27 and Pacer 27, finally finishing 6th overall on handicap. The L26 Windways is crewed by sailors with dinghy backgrounds. They coped extremely well in the conditions. Skippered by Phil Bennett, this boat has been campaigned successfully on the Val Dam circuit. 2012 has started with a bang as they finished first overall on corrected time, slipping over the line just behind the leading J27 Pink Cadillac. The winning margin over second place was just 11 seconds. But second and third overall on handicap was even tighter, with just 1 second separating these two J22s. HJ, skippered by Trevor Hulleman on the right of frame, edging out Neil Armstrong on hang 10. And the top placed Formula 1 was Jolly Roger, skippered by Chris Duff. The top placed Mistral, a boat that has just celebrated its 40th anniversary, finished a credible 23rd overall on handicap. Skippered by David John Hodgson, the Mistral's classic lines are unmistakable. As expected, Brent Hayward and Daniel Lawrence were the first Hobie 16 sailors home, and the first Hobie 16 sailed without a spinnaker was Greg Plunkett on Whisk. Greg, who normally sails a J22, was probably regretting his choice of boat on the day. Richard Stevens, sailing his Hobie 18, finished second multi-hull overall in his division. So, once all the handicaps were adjusted, here then the top 10 placings on corrected time. Further details of the SAMSA Round the Island Race 2012 can be found on the Lake Denace Yacht Club website, which is on screen now. With a total of 378 official entries, this year's race was a massive success. Although there are a large number of serious competitors sailing state-of-the-art racing yachts, the large majority of sailors are out for a day of adventure and ultimately fun. These boats may be better suited for cruising, but play a crucial part in the spectacle of the day. Sailing is unpredictable at the best of times and, as one knows, is reliant on Mother Nature, in particular the wind. Conditions in the Round the Island Race 2012 certainly suited the keelboat class, as was evident in the overall handicap results. The classes that fared less well were the dinghies and catamarans that were becalmed on the return leg. An hour passed before the breeze filled in once again. This is the nature of sailing, and undoubtedly next year will offer a set of variables that favour one of the other classes. Even so, there were 325 finishers, and notably the smallest boat entered was the Dabchick, suitably named Adrenaline Rush. The 3.6 metre dinghy was sailed by Ingrid Wertsum Ames, finishing in 114th position, a real feat of endurance on a boat not designed for distance sailing. So until next year's event, keep on sailing.